Hi guys, this is going to be video 1 of the polytunnel build. As you can see, we're quite far through already. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I've not been too confident to actually get in front of the camera or remembering to film projects as I'm doing them. So just talking about the bits we've already done on here. So we've concreted in the foundation tubes all the way along, so there's 10 tubes gone in. We've also bought a new additional tube from First Tunnels just to make it a little bit taller in the tunnel. I'm 6'2", so what I didn't want to do would be bashing my head on the crop bars that we're going to be putting across. So we put the ridge bar in, that came with the tunnel, and we've got the 2 crop bars on the side as well, that they're additional. So I'll apologise for the audio going through the video. It's not the best at all, if I'm honest. Again, just starting off with these videos, I've not really got any kit other than the phone I'm recording on. So we'll try and get that to be a little bit better going forward. But at the moment, you just have to listen to it as it is, unfortunately. So now I've pretty much set the height on the 2 side bars. Now they are a bit wonky, not joint the best. I've used the original threads that were on there, and they've kind of been cross-threaded or damaged in the past, so they're not holding very well. But they'll do, it's only to hang some strings off. It will add overall strength to the tunnel. So what I'm doing now, I'm just going to measure up for the bars to come this way, and also the drop as well. So I'm going to try and figure out what the best height's going to be. Now, I was thinking of going just above my head with it. The only thing I think with that is at the end, the end one that comes across, the vertical sides of the door are actually going to fix to it, I think, for now. We might go right up to the top of the hoop with that, but I'd like to make sure I've got enough height on the crop bars to be a bit higher than the door would have to be, and the door frame. So maybe if the door is going to be 6'4", maybe I'll put those at 6'10", just to give me 6 inches above it. A bit of 2x4 framing, and the door itself 2x4. Should be good then. So at this point, I've just started working out what kind of height I want those crop bars to be at. So just trying to stack some bits up and set the laser up there, just so I can get a nice mark on the actual hoop of the tunnel. It's a bit high at first. I found the height I wanted then. So I was actually struggling to find the laser line on the tunnel, most on that one side. So I've actually got a receiver for the laser line, so you see me here just using that to try and find out where it is roughly, just so I can get a little mark on it and get going and know where it is, because I couldn't see it at all. Deciding now that it's not going to be as easy as I thought, just to measure across from the 2 lines I've put on there. So I'm moving the clamp down now that was already on that side of the tube, just to use that as the starting point for the measurement. Stupidly here, I didn't put a Q-clamp on this side where I needed it, so I put it underneath the bar you can see next to me. In hindsight, I could have just undone that clamp and slid that one up instead of bending the other clamp, because it does make them a little bit tricky to use. Use the laser again to set a line either side of the tunnel. So the floor does fall out of level to the left of the tunnel. So over here the gap is bigger than over here. So by using the laser now, I've got myself a nice line level, 2 clamps. You just make the clamps out there, you see me put them on. And we've got a measurement of 2.5 meters from side to side. So we're going to cut them at 2.5. We'll cut one first of all, just to make sure it's right. And the tube that we've got at the moment is got just a round tube. Now we need to flatten the end of it, round it off and drill a hole in there. So we'll do another video of that now, of that process. Ideally we wouldn't have had to do it if we'd have bought them already done. It would have cost us a lot more money than doing it ourselves. And like I said, we got hold of this pipe luckily enough, and quite an amount of it as well. Originally we were going to build the whole tunnel from this and perhaps get a tube roller and make the hoops ourselves, but we found them at a bargain, so there was no point doing that. And they're 35mm, so they're a lot stronger than the 25mm pipe. So we'll pop into the workshop now. We'll set up some bits and see about flattening the ends of these and drilling and see how we get on with that. And then we'll get the first tube in and work out the distance then that we need, or the length we need to cut the pipe that's going to drop from the ridge bar down to the crop bar to support it. And then we'll do the same, we'll flatten that one off as well. Okay guys, so this is we're inside the garage now. It's a bit of a workshop. It is very messy in here. We've got to knock half of the building down in order to build the extension. So we've tried to condense everything to one end of it at the moment. So where we're actually stood will be removed shortly. So the garage can get a lot smaller. So excuse the mess. I will work my best around it without falling over and breaking my neck on things, and trying to show you the best I can. So just going to use the little grinder now on a little stand that I bought from Lidl's. It was reduced to about £4 I think, but it holds the grinder nice and neat, gets it cut nice and square for us as well. So I'm going to cut the tube to length, and then we'll just pop it on the vise and have a look what we can do with it. We get noisy. We are going to use some PPE. Got my goggles on. I have had grinding filings in the eye before. It wasn't pleasant. As you can see, not perfect. It didn't quite want to cut right through the pipe. I don't know if the pipe was catching something. I probably could have done with clamping or picking it up a bit just to make it a little bit safer when doing that. So the first thing I'm going to clean the end of that pipe off, get rid of the burr on the end of the pipe, because that's going to be quite sharp along there. I plan on marking my crush point and maybe trying to cut the paint on this pipe with either a pipe cutter or a Stanley knife, just to try and prevent it from cracking. It might still crack, but it's worth a shot at least on the first one. If it doesn't work, it'll become too time consuming. I won't be too bothered. The tube is galvanised. I'll put a bit of paint on the cut end, and it's going to be in the dry as soon as the cover's on top of the polytunnel. Will be a bit of moisture in the air, be humid in there, but it's not going to cause that to rot in the lifetime I expect to have the tunnel there. So I cleaned the edge of that pipe off now. What I've also done, I've marked both ends of the pipe on the top. Because when I flatten these ends, I want the ends not to be offset to each other. So if I crush this one here, I wouldn't want to go to the other end and turn it off by any degree at all, really. So I try my best to get the top lines perfect. So what I'll probably do, I'll just use my eye now and be as close as I can, just to look down and try and make sure it's the top of the pipe. I just decide how far back I want to make this crush and make that little mark with the Stanley knife. Now in terms of how far back it's going to go, it'll depend on the clamp that we're going to use. So these are the clamps that we're using on the tunnel. They grip onto the 35mm pipe. And they're sat on a bit of an angle, so we've got to ensure that when we flatten this end, that the flat part's going to be big enough not to be catching on this or catching on any other part of the tunnel. So I think I'm probably going to go with perhaps 1.5 inches back. Let's have a look where we look at there. We go 40mm. Sorry for me using both metric and imperial. I'm terrible for it. I'm not used to either or really. So we'll go back for 40mm. We'll mark that with a pen, and then we'll just cut around it with a sand knife on this first one, just to see how it works, if it works at all. It might make no difference whatsoever. So I've not tried the crushies in this vice yet. First one I attempted, I used a hammer. It worked okay with a hammer, but I just think the vice will be a little bit neater. If it's not, and it takes too long, or it doesn't end up any neater, we'll just go back to using the hammer. Perhaps use this as an anvil. If not, my neighbour does have an anvil that I will be nicely asking him to have a lend of. Handles, maybe just have to keep turning it over. Ideally, a hydraulic press would be nice. We've not got one here. But what we did have is gone. It is crushing relatively easy in the vice. And I think I will be more precise with the crush in the vice than with the hammer, if I'm honest. In terms of making sure both ends are done. I can see the paint's flaking back past where I cut it, so I won't waste my time trying to do that next time. And I may even resort back to just using the hammer, because that's taking a little bit more effort than the hammer did. Not that I'm against hard work. See how well this works. So that's flattened it a lot. I would say a lot less effort than with the vice. I'm wondering whether I start with the vice just to get that in the right position. If I just start hitting it with a hammer and it doesn't quite go flat, I'm going to have the two ends slightly offset, and they're not going to clamp nicely. They still clamp on, but they won't clamp as nice as they could be. So let's just try this one again. Just start it with the vice. Up to 40mm. Now we might have to revise the 40mm looking at it, but we'll get this in. We'll drill one. We'll see how it looks outside. I suppose I could put a small spirit level at this end. Perhaps I won't waste the time marking it next time, and I just do it this way. And saying when I need to make them offset, certain ones need to be offset by 90 degrees. Perhaps I bend or fold one, flatten one. Looks good to me. We'll try and dig out the other level, which will be a lot better because it's magnetic and it'll stay on the end of the pipe. Yeah, I'm making it hard for myself by not having things fixed down. So if this vice wasn't moving, no doubt it would be a lot easier. So I've got two nice flat ends. Now what I want to do is try and round these ends off, see what we've got that'll make a nice template perhaps, just to get them all similar. They don't have to be perfect, but that looks good. It's just an offcut of one of the tubes that we put on. Using that tube as a template worked quite well. Quite a nice rounded end on there. Next we're going to pop onto the drill and just see if we can get some 8mm holes centered in there and see how well we work with that. Don't drill it too close to any corner, obviously you don't want it to pull through, so we'll go mark up now on the drill and see where's best. It would be nice if I had a vise for the drill, but I don't, so what I might do is put a piece of timber on there and use a clamp. Just mark it up with a clamp now, just so we're roughly able to, when we drill the hole, still spin that right the way to the degree we need to. Again, this is what I like to call the practice pounding. So could go good, could go bad. I'm just going to use this drill on the speed it's set at. I'm not going to try and change it at all. We might need to change out the bits. These are old bits. I'm not putting too much pressure, just letting the drill do its work as much as possible. Then it's gone through relatively straightforward. I'll run the grind over the back of these just to clean that up as well. Again, the marking of these is not a perfect science. I'm not going to make a jig to make them all the same. It's just quite relevant. So, a hole fits. The idea will be to clamp that on. First tunnels didn't send any washers with all the bits I bought from them, but I've got a pack of washers, so I am putting washers on with the nuts just to make them work a little bit easier. They don't really need them. I like to use washers. My dad told me to always use a washer. So we will be using washers. The ones we have are stainless steel washers. Again, if they weren't here, I wouldn't have bought stainless steel washers to use on it. They were left over when we built our motorhome and we needed them for the outside. So we'll put a washer on both sides. So we'll pop back out to the tunnel now, set you back up and see how well they clamp on. If this one goes on well, it won't be coming back off. It'll be staying on there at the height. And I'll just make the rest the same. To get it over the actual tube. All the others I've got hopefully in the right places. But this one is one that I forgot to slide up. It would be a lot easier for me to put it inside there, but it's going to be reducing the width of items I'm putting on here. And again, it's probably easier without the washer. However, I'm going to use the washer, so I will just persevere. This one's going to be easier. I didn't spread that clamp. I was thinking far ahead with this one. So I'm happy with that height. Again, I'll laser it just to make sure it's level. But in terms of where it is on the head, I don't see any issues with that. Gives us plenty of room if we're going to be growing across it as well. I may put some grapevines in here at some point. I say may because ideally I would like to use the greenhouse for that. Dealt well. I don't think I brought my tape measure back with me to make this measurement. As I said, on these ones, we flatten the two ends in parallel with each other. On this one, because the bars are on the opposite way, when we put a clamp on here, so when we flatten this tube now, these need to be off 90 degrees to each other. So I'll do what I done last time. I'll collapse the one end, have it back to the vise. I'll leave the spirit level the other way this time. I think that's going to be the best way for me to get them. So it'll be just a case of repeat. I need 4 more of these and 4 more of the other tubes. I will do. Just want to eat my words a little bit with these clamps. Slightly different than the ones I've used in the past. You see now that that is pinched up tight, and I've put this one in the middle because I've done this side first and I done it on the outside, and if you look, they've not pinched together tight, which I think means the top clamp is tight but there's still room for tension. Okay, so we're on to the smaller tubes now. So the overall length of these is 340 millimeters. Now the length is not too much of a concern for me because they can sit slightly off angle, but I want to try and get them as vertical as possible between the two bars, just so that the weight is pulling directly down and it's not pulling on too much of an angle. So I found it now. So what I've done, I've set it into the vise, and that's close enough for me. So these two flat parts are going to be offset to each other. So this one's going to be flat, this one's going to be vertical with the holes drilled in. That allows to join the two bars that are then at 90 degrees to each other as well. So looking at this one, it probably is a little bit too long, could be a bit shorter. I'm not too upset with the angle it's on. I will pay more attention next time to be drilling. You can see it drilling this a little bit further back. It's quite close touching there. I would like there to have been a small gap between the two. Maybe I can get away with putting that down a bit. And then this one up here, there's quite a bit of a gap above there. So overall, not unhappy with the first one. Try and be a little bit better with the other 4 now.
With this part of the video, I did try to wear my Galaxy Buds to see if I could get perhaps some better audio. It doesn't seem to have worked at all, so you do a few bits of voiceover on it now. I had it in for the rest of the filming on this day, so there's going to be no real audio. A lot of this video I am explaining things along the way with the hope that the microphone in the earpiece picked it up. So what I've done on all of the central prop bars, instead of using a laser, especially in the daytime and it being a bit far away, I've just come along with the magnetic level just to try and get all those level. So what I'm trying to demonstrate now is the fact that we shortened the tunnel by quite some. You can see the old ridge bar sticking on the front of the tunnel there. Mainly because I wasn't quite happy with the spacing of the hoops. Problem was the support bars that I'm holding on to there are a bit too long. I couldn't shorten them without having to recrush them. I think they're a bit hard to crush. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back on the side here, and because I can't fix it to the bottom of the tube, the base rail, there's going to be a base rail going all the way around. I'm going to just bolt this support bar through that. It's going to be plenty strong enough to just hopefully keep everything nice and square. Both end hoops have got one on each side. It just keeps that rigid. Obviously, when you tension the plastic, it does pull on those two end rings, pulls them both towards the centre a bit. But fixing that to the timber is not going to be a problem. So just adding the last of the side crop bars on here, clamping that into place. Did manage to thread them all in after. Threads are a bit rough on the ends of them, but we've got them all threaded in. If anything, I think they're probably going to be a stronger connection with that thread than the actual original ridge bar. So the original ridge bar came in three sections with just a swage on the ends. They slot inside each other, but it wasn't very easy to get together, so they're not pushed in as far as I'd like. I will put a self-tapping screw through them all just to stop them pulling apart if it ever does. But yeah, it's going to add to the overall strength. They're all threaded together. Each one's clamped. Also going to look at putting self-tappers all the way along in every joint. There's 3 joints along each hoop on each side, right the way through. Some of them are pre-drilled, so I could put a nut and bolt through them. So we might do that. It's going to be a bit stronger than a self-tapper.